they started to shoot with heavy gun. I was there. I am the witness. The people were waiting to go the inside of these warehouses to find their beloved and the killed body. They should go there and find it. I saw two or three trucks that they were in the queue to to unload the bodies.
That's testimony from an eyewitness who recently left Iran, the horrors that he saw firsthand as the regime unleashed a brutality like none seen before. At least 12,000 people killed in just 2 days.
But duty to be a voice of my people, my family, and to show the whole world that what is going on there.
And a Republican U.S. lawmaker on America's role to help Iranian protesters. Congressman Marlin Stutzman joins us.
I know that President Trump cares for the people of Iran and wants to see this regime somehow removed.
Where's this all headed? We'll pose that to Roya Hakakian, a writer, poet, and human rights advocate who grew up in Tehran and fled with her family to the U.S. in the 1980s.
I feel like I've lost people, even though I don't know them personally, but I feel like I'm in a grief state.
And support from non-Iranians. Gunther Fehlinger-Jahn, chairman of the Austrian Committee for NATO Enlargement, on why this movement means so much to him.
I feel very strongly with the Iranian people fighting for freedom.
I'm Negar Mojtahedi, and this is Eye for Iran. Kiarash, welcome. It means so much to have you here. You're opening up about something so traumatic to get out your message to the world. You were there in Iran at the height of the repression during the digital blackout. Tell us what you witnessed.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's my duty to be a voice of my people, my family, and to show the whole world that what is going on there, because no one knows what is exactly going on there in the streets, and what are the people thinking, and what are they hoping for. These days are so horrifying, and my heart is exploding every single minute. And I just heard that 1 hour ago, a friend of mine he was killed yesterday, and yeah, that comes in my. But what I've seen in Tehran, that it is not stoppable we can't stop this regime to killing the people. They're not talking with us. They're just killing.
Sorry.
From the first moments that on 8th of January, which Shahzadeh Pahlavi, you call the people, they started to shoot with heavy gun. I was there. I am the witness, with heavy gun, and they were prepared for that. Let me tell you that what I've saw in Behesht Zahra, in the main cemetery there. That I
Yes, you
saw.
were there. You were burying your friend who died, who was killed.
Yeah. A woman, a proud woman. She was 41 years old, with 2 children, and she was hit it in Punak, in the neck, and she was in hospital for 1 night, and at Saturday we find it that she's dead, and we went to the main cemetery in Tehran because she was in hospital. It's a rule that anyone who died in hospital, they should go there. We don't know that. Whoever is killed in the streets and in the police stations, what would happen with them? But in the hospital, they should go directly to the main cemetery for this. washing ritual Muslim things at Ghassal Khane. And yeah, so we went there. At the entrance, there were many security guards, and we parked a car, and we went uh, to this Ghassal Khane, the men washing, the body washing hall. And I saw for the first time, I saw two warehouses, which was pretty new for me. And I saw a long queue that in which the people were waiting for to go the inside of these warehouses to find their beloved and the killed body. They should go there and find it. And anyway, we could see what is inside because the door was there big, and I went there. I approached the door, and it was I saw uh, two layers of dead bodies in
Ugh.
black zippers. And I used to work in a logistic company for 8 years, and I know about the dimensions in the warehouses. I know the trucks. I know the what does the 40 feet truck, what does it mean? How many kilos it can contain there? And I saw in part of this some part of this warehouse, there were three layers of people, the dead
How
people
many dead
there.
bodies in this warehouse? When you say three
In
layers, how many?
yeah, in my eyes, in my calculation, minimum there there were 1,500 up to 2,000 something
Oh my
in
God.
each warehouse. There were two warehouses
2,500?
in each warehouse. I mean, that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it is so important. And I saw two or three trucks that they were in the queue to uh, to unload the bodies, and that was continuously, you know. So at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw like minimum 4,000 people, dead
God.
bodies. And oh yeah, the other thing was that I saw they were throwing these bodies, and they were rolling the bodies there. That's why I'm telling you that there were two or three layers. And I saw small bags. I found it out that there are
Children?
children. There are many children. They were throwing the and the I was shaking. I was shaking. I tried to take some photo, and I took out by my cell phone, mobile phone. Someone took my arm, and he said, "Don't you want to take a photo or a video?" I said, "No, I want to call my brother." And he said, "No, there's no telephone connection. Put it back, or we should go together." And I saw that the people and mothers, they were shouting, they were uh, uh, kicking themselves, and because of this act of shooting and throwing the people, when the crowds were more and more, they approached to the entrance, and they breathed in. And I can't forget this moment that a mother found her boy, and she was alone. She was shouting that this is my boy. Don't touch him, because
How old was the
in
boy?
uh, I don't know, but the point was that because there um there were another body underneath, and when the other people, the other family they couldn't find the beloved one. They should move the first body uh, and find bodies under the other one. And
Hmm.
she was shouting that, this is my boy, this is my boy. Someone come and help me to move it to Ghasal Khan, to washing out. And it I didn't I just saw, and I just read these things in Nazi, in Holocaust things that
Yeah,
which is
of
here
course.
in Germany. And the security guards, they were just looking on our eyes. They didn't do anything. And well, anytime that I'm explaining, you my tears comes out, and my heart is breaking.
This is
Yeah.
absolutely heartbreaking. And you saw tell us what else you witnessed at Behesht Zahra, the cemetery. You saw tell us about the shooting. You described to me over the phone before we started recording about people dressed in chador
This is
shooting at people.
after that. Yes, it is this thing is after that. We were the just I want uh, to have to go back to this point, which is so important, that at 1:30 in the afternoon, there were in my eyes there were like minimum 4,000 in both of them, minimum 4,000 in both, and in two warehouses. And when we were when we had to leave because we had half an hour to put the Nassim Puragai's body into the grave, and we had just half an hour to do the ritual things. And I saw, again in my eyes, that the crowd was the triple, you know.
Wow.
And and of course the warehouse was feeding from the other door. It was loading it from the other door. And when then we should just think how many people it comes, how many dead bodies comes and goes. I saw at 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon, like 4,000 people. And at 4 o'clock, of course, there were more and more. And that was for just 4 hours.
Yeah.
We had many days that they killed our people. It is, we should calculate. We should think about it. That's why these numbers, even one is huge. Uh, yeah, we went back to Tehran, and that's like 4:30 in the afternoon, and or 5, I don't know, I can't remember, because we were so shocked. And yeah, after like 6 and 6:30, I left my family, and I went to Sadat with my friends. And then about 8 o'clock, everything was disconnected. And then again I could hear the shooting things from the north of the Kaj Square in Saadatabad. And suddenly I saw someone with chador, with the black uh, long
Covering.
shawl covering. Yeah, he or she, I don't know, what was
Oh,
that? Passed away, passed me. And the and I've heard bang bang, pak 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 pak. That was the thing. Six times of silent shooting. And I saw, in my eyes, I saw three people. They collapsed, and They fell down just near me. Just near me. 2 girls and 1 boy, and 1 man, I mean.
Just indiscriminately
Yeah.
shooting at the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And I
It could have
shouted
been you.
exactly if he or she was left-handed, that could be me. And yeah, one shot in the foot, in the foot and leg, and the other one in the neck.
My God.
Wow.
One
How
shoot
can
in
I?
the neck and one in the leg.
Yeah. And I shouted that he is killing us. I shout, and uh, he or she, it was that creature. I mean, yeah, it was so trained and so fast, and boom, boom, boom. She or he ran away, and yeah, we had to take care about these bodies, and the bloods of these 3 bodies were there, and we uh, moved them to the side streets, and I hope they're alive. I hope they are alive. Yeah,
My
that was
God.
the saddest day in my whole life. You know. I haven't seen anything like that. Anything like that. That's why I'm telling you that they will kill like 5 million people. It's not important for them.
Would you describe this
Uh,
as a genocide?
exactly. Yes. Of course. I've told you that I just saw that picture when they were throwing out the bodies in Behesht in the cemetery. It was the same picture which we have here in Berlin, that they were throwing the Jewish people from the wagons in Holocaust. Sorry.
And
And
now it's
yeah,
happening to our people.
exactly. It's now happening there. And we should. This is my duty, as this is my responsibility to talk and to talk and to say every time I will cry. But I should say, what is happening? What is happening? And what should we be aware of? And uh, and the governments shouldn't work with this regime because they're killing their own people. How we can why you are working with them?
And not only that, you're going to have next month, the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, has been invited to the Munich Security
Yeah,
Conference, right in your country of Germany.
exactly. Yeah. They shouldn't be recognized and reselling anything because they're the liars. They're 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 killing the people, their own people. So what the other countries are thinking for, and are they in they helping, and their hands are in the blood as well, or what? It is so important uh, to clarify, to crystallize that what is happening there.
And already you've lost so many friends who have been killed.
Yes. And and now and the news will come later and later. And many friends of mine and many friends of my friends that they're lost. You know, it we don't know where are they. It is the other thing. As long as this system and this regime is working, nothing will be uh, changed, and the region is still like that. Yeah.
And what is your message to the world?
Uh, uh, the message to the world is to not to at first not to work with this regime and close the embassies there and isolate this regime. At least this is the uh, it is the smallest thing that they can do, and they don't recognize that because the history will be will not forget them because
Yes,
they
never.
had
And
yeah.
how did you after everything you've witnessed, after everything you've been through and all this trauma, how did you get out of Iran?
I changed my flight from because Turkish airline was they canceled my flight, and I bought another one which was so expensive anyway, but I had to come out because I had to work here. I'm living here. Yep,
When did you leave?
and Sunday.
On Sunday, so very recently. And how
Yeah,
are you coping? I mean, this is not easy. You have witnessed, like you said, something like a Holocaust, and now here you are
yeah.
speaking out and doing your part to fight this as best you can. But obviously, you have been through so much trauma. Tell me how you're feeling.
I feel not good at all, but fortunately, I had a course, a certification from Bielefeld University for trauma therapy. I didn't know that I should use it for myself, trauma
Okay.
therapy, and now I'm using for myself with writing and speaking. I bought many flowers for myself today to just see it because I'm totally alone here right now, and yeah, and um, yeah, we have to, and these things that if I know if I recognize something like the duty for myself to the like talking to you that you can help me to be the voice of my people to show what is going on that makes me better. I feel better, and we can put our hands together uh, to do something. It is the best thing that makes me happy, and uh, that my heart is will come together from this broken heart which I have right now.
Of course, and we're all in this together, and all
Yeah,
of us
yeah.
have to do our part and use our voice in whatever form and whatever capacity we can. Thank you so much, Kiarash. This means
Thank
so
you.
much.
It's my pleasure. It's my duty and my responsibility, and I hope the next time we are talking about anything is it will be better. It should be peace and love and dancing and yeah, yeah.
May we see
The
light again.
future. Of
May we
course.
see light again.
Of
Thank
course, we
you.
will see. Of course.
For the angle on U.S. politics and all of this, we're joined by Congressman Marlin Stutzman. Thank you for being here and for your time.
Thank you, Negar. Great to be with you.
So right now, there are lots of Iranians inside Iran who have, made signs pleading for some sort of intervention. They've even renamed streets after President Donald Trump, and it seems to be pretty much the same demands within the diaspora as well. What is the U.S. position right now when it comes to the Iranian regime and helping the Iranian protesters?
Yeah, well, first of all, my constituents, myself, and many in Congress are standing with the Iranian people. Knowing what they have endured over the past several decades is something that we have all been watching carefully and hoping for a day to come where this brutal regime would be toppled. And I'm hoping and praying that we're very close. Obviously, this regime is so dangerous in ways that they're crazy men, and they would be they're going to hurt people around them, hopefully during their exit. But we want to minimize that damage as much as possible. But at the same time, this is an opportunity that the regime can be toppled. And so I know for President Trump has already helped so much just by simply bombing the nuclear site that the regime was building. That has helped to bring, I believe, this day to where we're at now, where it's given the Iranian people an opportunity to topple the regime. Of course, other countries in the region are watching very closely. I was just visiting with some folks that are in that region that want to see this happen, want to be helpful, but at the same time knowing that if there were some sort of major strike from the United States, it could create other issues where they may start launching missiles at countries in the region. And so it's not just Israel; it's also other Gulf states that have a lot of concern that are watching this closely. But my hope and prayer is that we have a good plan in place that will ultimately help the Iranian people topple the regime, and that there could be a new day in Iran.
Yeah, and certainly, as you mentioned, it certainly did. Those strikes in June did pave the way for this moment to happen, and President Trump's actions most recently in Venezuela as well, because we can't forget that Venezuela was a big financial supporter of Iran as they were funneling money through drug trafficking between Hezbollah and Venezuela, and also manufacturing arms for the Iranian regime as well.
Yeah.
But there seems to be some conflicting messaging in the sense that we did hear on Truth Social from the president that help is on the way. Even Senator Lindsey Graham reiterated that and said, help is on the way for the Iranian people. And then on Wednesday, we heard President Trump in speaking to reporters saying that the killings have stopped, and that in some ways signaled to some people in the Iranian community that, in some ways that it was a little bit demoralizing. They felt, oh no, does this mean that there's not going to be any intervention? Is that part of maybe the strategy, a diversion tactic as plans are coming into place? Or are regional allies within the Middle East potentially influencing the decision of what to do because of the potential blowback that they could face, as you mentioned?
Well, the U.S. and allies of the Iranian people around the world are obviously monitoring this very closely. And, as we saw the capture of Maduro just a couple of weeks ago in Venezuela, that wasn't something that was, announced through the media that anything was going to happen. There's got to be an element of surprise. And so what I would just encourage the Iranian people is to keep fighting forward, and not to know that the American people are standing with the Iranian people. Our allies are standing with the Iranian people. This is an opportunity. We saw this back in 2014 when the Arab Spring started to creep up, and we thought there was going to be an opportunity then, but then that was obviously squelched. But with President Trump's strong leadership, and with American military, with our allies around the world, I believe many of us see this as an opportunity for a change, but we want it to be, of course, and it's being led by the Iranian people. But we'll be there to support them. I don't know what that exactly looks like. I can't say exactly what that would look like, and I know that President Trump can't say exactly what that looks like. But as a member of Congress, and knowing that my constituents would love to see a change in the leadership there, and rebuilding the friendship and the relationship that the Iranian people could have with the United States, we would welcome that with open arms. But obviously, this is going to be, there's going to be lives lost through this. There's going to be attacks on one another here, and we'll see what the government of Iran, what the regime does to those who are in the streets and revolting. I don't even like to say revolt, because this is just simply the people taking their government back and taking their country back, that was taken from them back in 1979 and in the 70s. So I think that President Trump and the administration here in the United States are obviously, they have top level information. They have a lot of folks that understand what's going on there, but there will be plans, I'm sure, in place, and we want to work with our allies in the region as well, that they are safe as much as possible, to be sure that as we go through these next several days and weeks, that whatever it takes to get to that point as safely as possible can be done. Obviously, it's going to be very challenging and difficult, because they're not going away without a fight. But we know some of the things that we're seeing is that they seem to be starting to move some money outside of Iran, and maybe that's an indication that they're going to try to find an exit that may save their life. And we saw that with Maduro. I mean, I think if anything, the Iranian regime should realize that what happened with Maduro is something that could happen to them as well. And but it looks like with them starting to move money out, maybe they're going to try to find a way out before it costs them their lives.
Yes, and as you mentioned, not just Maduro, but even past actions that President Trump had within Iran itself, right? In 2020 with the targeted killing of Qasem Soleimani, as well as joining in on the Israeli strikes in Iran on the three major nuclear sites there. So I would think the regime is not resting easy, knowing that. But yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, there's been here at Iran International reporting that in 2 days, at least 12,000 people were killed. These are unarmed civilians. CBS News is reporting those numbers could go up to at least 20,000. And just keep in mind, this is just 2 days. It took, I believe it was 1 month to reach that number in Gaza, 3 years for Russia's war in Ukraine. So, and I just spoke with an eyewitness who just left Iran on Sunday, and he was at a cemetery called Behesht Zahra. And behind there's a warehouse where they were dumping the bodies, and he's giving estimates. In each warehouse, there was about, give or take, 4,000 bodies. 4,000 in each warehouse. So, I mean, definitely atrocities are being committed, and I know that it's always very encouraging for the Iranian people to hear your message. So what is your message to the Iranian people that you want them to hear?
Yeah, I want to know that they should hear from me and many other Americans that we are with them, and that we know that they are under an amount of pressure that we don't see in America, that they're actually standing up to a brutal regime that is killing people and taking lives, and we wish we could be there to stop that somehow, but obviously there's a lot of challenges in order to be able to do that, because this regime does have firing power and the ability to take out more lives. So we want to minimize the amount of deaths, but of course, we are with them with our prayers, and I know that President Trump, who I believe is the strongest diplomat and the strongest negotiator that the world has seen since President Ronald Reagan, and I know that President Trump cares for the people of Iran, and wants to see this regime somehow removed, and in order to do that, there can be complications to that, and I know that it's one of those moments where we hate to see lives being lost, but this is a moment we have to do this so that lives can be spared for the future, and that generations down the road of Iranians can live in some sort of peace and prosperity and rebuilding, the country that Iran can be. And so, my word is just to be encouraged, to stay, fighting forward, to not give up. This is a moment that we can't let pass by. We don't want the lives that have been lost already to be lost in futility. We want them to be, to let's accomplish the goal here, and to restore Iran to what it can be. And so it feels a little helpless in some moments, but I know that we are going to do all that we can. I know members of Congress are watching closely. I mean, we're checking the news almost hourly to see if something new has happened, and we want to see this come to an end soon. But at the same time, we want to see the regime be removed, leave, whatever it takes to start a new chapter in Iranian history.
And I know you've already done a lot of amazing work and advocacy work in your role to help the people of Syria after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, and hopefully you'll be able to do the same for a free Iran.
I would love to. I mean, one of the things that we should all value is life, and of course, this brutal regime doesn't do that. I think with the fact that President Trump has already put sanctions on, also tariffs on countries that are doing any sort of business with this regime, shows that he is putting the pressure on, and that there is a way to find a way to peace through the pressure points that we do have. And President Trump, again, I would just message, a message to the regime is don't take President Trump's messages lightly, because President Trump will do all that he can to find a way to protect life, to bring peace and prosperity to other parts of the world. In America, of course, we're full of so many different backgrounds. There's a lot of Iranian people that live here in the United States, and we hear from them, and we know that we want to stand with them and the people in Iran to bring about the same sort of peace and prosperity that we experience in America. And President Trump is the type of leader that will help do that.
Thank you so much, Congressman Stutzman, for joining us on Eye for Iran today.
Thank you for having me.
Author, journalist, and human rights advocate Roya Hakakian joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's a very emotionally charged time.
Yes, absolutely. I walk around with tears in my eyes. I feel like I've lost people, even though I don't know them personally, but I feel like I'm in a grief state.
And Roya John, you lived through the 1979 Islamic Revolution. You fled Iran in 1984. What is it like watching and witnessing this unfold now from afar?
You know, for a couple of days, I was watching with a great deal of anticipation, anxiety, but also excitement, thinking that my dream in life to see this regime fall may well come true. And I'm still hoping that this can be the outcome of everything that has happened since December.
And so you see the signs, right? As someone who witnessed the 79, you see the signs right now, right? Tell us about that.
Well, the signs are that you have vast numbers of people from all sorts of economic backgrounds, ethnicities, religious, gender, social groups and interests joining in. This isn't like 2022 when people said the majority of them are young girls and women or university students. This is far more widespread. And the reasons are not the reasons that we have seen in the past, meaning that there has always been economic difficulty. But this time around, the issue of daily survival is probably most foremost on the minds of everybody. And I think that really distinguishes this round from the ones we've seen in the past. And I think, of course, the regime is at its weakest it's ever been. It's coming out of a very, very devastating war last June. Everything that it had promised in 47 plus years that it could, demolish Israel and the United States, if only it wanted to, prove to be just hot air. And so this seems to be the right historical moment. And even if they survive, I cannot see how a regime that has committed the sort of crimes that they have committed in the past 2 weeks can go on living, as usual with the same sense of authority or relationship with the rest of the society. It's just impossible to fathom.
Yeah, it's really, a line has been crossed and there's really no going back at this point, right?
A line has certainly been crossed, but where we go from here remains to still be seen. Will they remain in power? And if so, how does a regime that has committed such crimes and killed as many people as they have and inflicted such a trauma upon a nation go on, with business as usual? It seems that within themselves they have to do some sorting out, and some heads have to fall because this just can't. They can't go unanswered. The what has happened to people needs to be addressed to some degree or another.
Yeah, it's certainly not sustainable, right? And I mean, for people who have lost everything, we're hearing stories of parents that have lost young children. I mean, at this point, those people obviously don't have anything to lose.
Yes, but I think we all can manage or can suffer only to a certain degree, and there's a point at which violence can become so severe and so
Yeah.
terrifying that human beings have only a certain capacity. So I'm just hoping that that the international community, combined with the resilience of Iranians, both inside and outside of Iran, and some strategic approaches to pressuring the regime from around the world, will make all these sacrifices that we have witnessed bear fruit.
So let's talk about that. What do you think about the international community's response so far? I mean, here at Iran International reporting that at just 2 days, at least 12,000 people were killed.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that there were posts on public social media and elsewhere that, this is 4 times 9/11 in the United States, but um, but the irony is that 9/11 was inflicted on the United States by its foreign enemies, whereas what has happened in Iran has been inflicted on the nation by the government that is supposed to protect its own people. So the deep tragedy here is that the military that is supposed to be there, and all this weaponry and military machinery is supposed to be there to defend people against foreign powers, whereas at the moment they are all in the service of committing crimes against the very people that they're supposed to defend. So I think the proportions of the crimes that have occurred are larger than any other time in modern Iranian history. No matter what the ultimate numbers are, the speed at which this has happened, the brutality with which it has happened, is unlike anything Iran has experienced in the last 200-300 years. So this certainly is a major historical break. I think that there are symbolic efforts that the international community has done, recalling some ambassadors, trying to ban the Revolutionary Guard Corps. These are symbolic. They can potentially send a message, but at this dire moment, the people need a lot more in Iran. The people need the violence to stop. The people need to be connected to each other and to the world outside. They need to, there are a lot of people missing. They need to find their loved ones. They need to be able to bury their loved ones. So I think while there are symbolic things that are being done, the immediate needs are far greater and more urgent. And I think part of what the diaspora community needs to do is to communicate that urgency, and the grave necessities that this moment requires to the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely. And, I was telling you about how I spoke with an eyewitness who recently left Iran, and he has so much, he's taking a big risk by speaking out, right? But he said, it is my duty. I can't just stand by and not say anything. This needs to come out. The world needs to see this and hear this, and this needs to be documented as well.
Exactly. I think there are groups and people who are trying to do that very thing, but I'm still hoping that we can, or there can be pressure placed on the regime, and on the part of the United Nations, on the part of Security Council, to press the regime, to hold it accountable for what has occurred, and to make sure that those who have committed these crimes will no longer be in positions of authority throughout Iran.
And where do you see things going from here?
Well, I think the one conclusion um, that's very easy to draw, and I'm sure I'm not breaking news to any member of the diaspora community, is that there is a desperate need for an organized coalition against the regime. No matter what happens from this point forward, there needs to be a coalition of capable, thinking Iranians who come together in order to not just speak against the regime, but come up with plans and step-by-step strategic approaches to how to build the future, how to confront the regime from this moment forward. The lack of that sort of planning is incredibly painfully evident at this moment. Where there's supposed to be elements from within the regime who would abandon it, would refuse its call for violence. Well, if there were, why didn't we see them, falling apart and coming away from supporting the regime? So clearly, those things that should always be in place before people take to the streets unarmed were not in place. This is very much like, running an emergency alert system or call, just to make sure that your smoke alarms and your fire alarms and everything else works in the case of real emergency. Well, in this case, the real emergency occurred, and we realized that our equipment, our planning was woefully inadequate. So I think one of the most important things that definitely need to fall into place is for the diaspora community, with all its resources and all of its access, to try to forecast the steps for the next round of uprisings in Iran. We know that they turn off the internet. We know that they can detect Starlink. So what can we do in advance in order to counter those eventual outcomes? If there are people within the regime, within the IRGC, within the military, or whoever, who have lost sympathy, then how can we make sure that if they don't come out on the streets to support the public, but can they still be relied upon in order to not shoot their guns or target the civilians? These are, there are numerous things that need to be in place in order for people to still, revolutions are unsafe and sacrifices will occur, but in order to minimize future sacrifices. And we clearly didn't have these plans in place, and people are paying a very heavy price.
No, that's very wise advice. And I just wanted to end off with a question that a lot of people ask me. They say that if this regime, which it is rotting from within, and they have been completely weakened in terms of regionally speaking. Their partners like Russia are occupied with their war in Ukraine. China is more like a predatory partner. They don't have a lot of options here, right? Or room to maneuver. Why is the IRGC and these regime security apparatus, why are they committing these crimes against humanity, against their own people, knowing that this is not going to last forever? This may not even last a few months. Why do this? What are they defending at this point?
Well, it's very hard to try to figure out, what goes on in someone else's heart or head. But clearly they feel deeply threatened, or they would not go into the lengths that they have gone this time around. And the threats are either to their personal interests or ideological interests, or both. And I think, there are ways in which one can negotiate personal interests, meaning that, let's identify who they are and make deals. Take your family and you can exit Iran into safety to, a number of these host countries potentially, and go. Or There clearly, I think it's important to remember that if they're reacting with the degree of violence that they're reacting, that they feel an existential threat, and that existential threat can be ideological or personal interest or both. And again, these are important lessons for whoever opposition coalition is for the next time around. Let's address those concerns if we can, or if they can, in advance.
Thank
So
you so much.
we minimize the amount of potential human losses that these protesters are experiencing.
And there's been far too much already. Thank you so much, Roya, for joining us today on Eye for Iran.
Thank you.
Gunther Fehlinger-Jahn, the chairman of the Austrian Committee for NATO Enlargement. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, someone of Iranian origin, thank you for all your support and being so vocal. Welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot for the invitation, and I do what I can for freedom for the Iranians.
That means so much. You've been protesting out with the Iranian people. Tell us why, and why this. I can see the emotion. I can see the passion in your videos and your speeches. Tell us why this matters so much to you.
I feel very strongly with the Iranian people fighting for freedom. And I was contacting by my friends, Iranians who live in Vienna and who were already the victim of this repressive regime for so long. And they want now the freedom. And I feel it as my honor, my obligation to support them. And that's why I was calling for regime change in front of the Austrian parliament and in my X account. Everywhere I call for regime change and for American and European intervention into Iran to make it possible.
Let's talk about Europe first, since you're there. How do you feel that the Europeans as a whole, Austria, the EU, etc., how are they reacting to this unfolding and massive situation in Iran? How would you assess it?
We feel very strongly with the people in Iran, and we want freedom and prosperity and security for the Iranians. And we are since long time already completely upset by this disastrous tyranny of Tehran and all these theocratic mullahs. We really don't like them. We see them as our enemies. They are sending their Shahid drones against our allies, the Ukrainians. They kill so many people in Europe, and it's time for them to end their terror regime.
But what about the governments? Are they doing enough, in your opinion, the governments in Europe?
No, unfortunately. The EU has now one very good person. I would like to recommend her, Mrs. Callas. She knows exactly how terrible Russia acts in Ukraine, and she is our women of steel. She is really very determined as well to take on the mullahs in Iran and to support the Iranians. Unfortunately, we have a lot of appeasers like Mr. Macron, and we have a lot of people, unfortunately, also for the left. They only care for the people from Gaza, but the people from Iran, they don't care. And that's very unfortunately. We need a very clear line together with the Americans against the mullah regime.
You suppose, 12,000 people dead in just 2 days, Why do you suppose, I'm not seeing that kind of outrage online or from governments too.
The outrage is there, but it's the same people who believe in Russian propaganda. They believe as well in Iranian, also in the government propaganda, and they are afraid because we Europeans often are afraid from the Russians, are afraid from the Iranians, because you know what your government is doing to our politicians since a long time, and they are threatening them or they are buying them. And we have seen buying them and threatening them. This is the standard method, double. You sweeten the deal with the politicians, tell them about the Iranian wealth and the oil and OPEC and all these things. OPEC is sitting in Vienna. That gives a lot of opportunities for buying officials. And the other thing is as well that they are threatening them because they always say, we killed, for example, the Kurds in Vienna. We can do it again. We can bring you terror. Do you want it? And our politicians are very weak. They say, and then they say, oh no, let's have stability. Always is the dogma stability. It's better to have the tyranny and then to have freedom. And I'm strictly opposing that. And now after this bloodshed in the streets of Tehran and many other Iranian cities, from the Kurdish territories to the Baluch, the regime is in a kind of a killing spree. And I think nobody in a good mind in Europe, nobody who believes in our values can anymore support such a tyranny and such a genocidal system like the Tehran Ayatollah is now doing. And I'm actually confident, in our heart, our politicians are good people. They are just afraid and a bit greedy. But now it's the turning point. The turning point is coming, and we will all stand with the Iranian.
Yeah, it definitely is a turning point with what we're seeing. It's almost impossible, I think, for the regime to come back from this, right? And like you mentioned, transnational repression is a major issue that the Iranian regime is committing in Europe and puts European lives at risk. And with the continuation of this regime, this is not going to stop.
It will be worse because now this regime, they have smelled blood, they have blooded themselves. And now, if they really, let's say, the most unfortunate turn of events, if they are winning and they are killing all the protesters and they will be swelling in blood, yeah, then they get used to that and they will be very, very brutal. And most of all, they will acquire the nuclear bomb. And if Mr. President Trump is not intervening, and we are all watching now the situation to unfold, if he does nothing, then the Iranian regime will have the nuclear bomb very soon, and then we can do nothing against them anymore. And they know that calculus, they know the timeline, they have the support of Russia, China, North Korea, maybe Pakistan, and they will be able to do it. And if we don't intervene, we have lost these opportunities, and thousands, if not 10,000 of people will lose their life in Iran. And that's a very tragic responsibility if we lose that opportunity.
Yeah, the world is Iranian people, and the security of the world really hangs now in the balance of what decision President Trump is going to make next.
Yes, we Europeans, we have some military assets, but we are far not capable to do regime change in Iran. It's ultimately, again, the world is in the hands of President Trump, and he has the means. And also the Israelis have the means to really affect regime change. And it's a kind of humanitarian intervention needed, like we did it in Bosnia, in Kosovo, in other places. Because if a terrible regime has the guns and have the controls of the leverages of power, it needs an outside factor to neutralize these tools and the guns. Yeah? And the Iranians, they cannot be asked to fight with their bare hands against machine guns and against this whole apparatus of suppression because they will be killed. Yeah? Like a Tiananmen, like the Chinese have done it in 89. The same things we will see in Tehran very soon, or maybe we are seeing it already at the moment, but due to the blackout, we cannot see the immensity of the disaster and of the massacres. But the reality is we have a legitimation for the humanitarian need to intervene to neutralize these tools and these guns. And this is the American president who has to do it best tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow, but in 2-3 days, it might be already too late.
Yes, yes. And, you mentioned responsibility to protect R2P.
Yes,
That's
absolutely. We
exactly
have
it.
done it in Kosovo. We have done it in Bosnia. We have done it too little in Ukraine now, but we have also done it in Libya, also in other places in the history of the last 30 years. And this is within our powers. This is our responsibility. If we take our values seriously, if we believe in human rights, if we believe in democracy, if we believe in human people and in dignity, then we have to intervene in order to neutralize these tools of power. I don't say regime change by American troops going to Tehran. This is not what I'm arguing, but I'm arguing for strategical strikes against the regime's infrastructure, against the military and suppression machine, and also as a symbolic symbol for all Iranians to rise at the same time because they see who is in power will be punished by American rockets and tomahawks, and that will be the sign for a general storming of the institutions, as President Trump has already called for in his tweets, but he has not acted because of whatever influences on him from whatever Turkey, Saudi Arabia, or MAGA appeasements. There's a lot of people around J.D. Vance who seem to neutralize Trump and make him unable to act. But Lindsey Graham is the man to follow here. He is really with his heart at the right place. and he knows what to achieve with American power. And I hope tonight is the night.
He said help is on the way, Lindsey Graham, and that that he hopes help is on the way, and he definitely does have the ear of the president, right? So that's important as well.
So many interests now converging in the White House. Obviously, the son of the Shah is very positive influence, and I hope he will leading this transition. He is the crystallization point of hope for all Iranians now, for democracy, for freedom, for federalism. And that's, I think, the best choice for the Iranians after the fall of Khamenei. But the point is, you have a lot of people who are arguing for stability, threats from the Iranian regime to attack the Emiratis. You have all of them are now pressuring the American president not to act. But I really pray President Trump makes the right decision and intervenes now, and he can make history. He can be a very powerful person in history, a man for peace. If he brings democracy and freedom to the Iranians, he will go down as one of the most impactful American presidents since Ronald Reagan. If he fails now, he will be the Obama and Clinton of our time, and he will be doomed.
Yes, no, and you mentioned inaction, right, about stability. But at the end, inaction, like you mentioned, could lead to Iran gaining the nuclear bomb, and that inaction will actually lead to escalation in many ways. It's the framework to make the situation even worse for the whole world.
You be sure that the desperate Putin, who has seen his ally Maduro in Venezuela now falling, and now the danger for his second ally, which is a partner in energy, in technology, it's a global partner in his axis of resistance. You can already see the technology flowing into Iran, the expertise flowing into Iran, him okaying to give the Iranians the nukes, and then this Khamenei, this man who trolls and mocks Mr. Trump online and who killed so many people, he will have the nuclear button very soon. And it's for Trump and especially J.D. Vance to blame if Iran acquires the nuclear weapon. And let's not forget, the whole first presidency and the rise of power of President Trump came in his opposition to this appeasement treaty of Obama towards Iran, this joint comprehensive treaty. And, if Trump fails now, when he has the global backing, first time he has a global coalition, the public opinion of the world is with President Trump on intervention.
And the Iranian people who are begging for that intervention too,
yes,
and are desperate for it.
It's a unique opportunity because who wants his country to be bombed? Yeah, it's the Iranians themselves, the people in the streets calling for President Trump. And if he doesn't do that now and he lets this slip, and then the Iranian Ayatollahs have the nuclear weapon and they are kind of a cult. They are really set for world destruction, and it's extremely dangerous. And please, President Trump, do not allow nuclear Ayatollahs to succeed in the genocidal efforts of the Iranians.
Thank you so much, Gunther. Just to conclude, any final thoughts, any message to the people of Iran?
I feel with everybody who is brave enough to have the courage to overcome this terror regime. We Austrians and Germans, we also were once in a terror regime under Hitler, and it needed Americans to bomb our cities and to regime change Germany and Austria away from Nazi power. And the same courage America needs now to end this terrible regime, which is killing the Iranians. And therefore, I stand with the Iranian people, and I call on President Trump to do the same and liberate the Iranians.
Thank you so much, Gunther. Thank you for joining us on Eye for Iran.
All the best. Thank you for the invitation.
If you like this episode, you can hit the like button. You can also sign up for our weekly briefing newsletter at iranintl.com/newsletter. And you can also check out our dedicated English website at iranintl.com/en.